Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm W9FFF Ham Radio Dude, and if it's your first time here, thanks for checking me out. In prior episodes, we've been talking about the Yaesu FT70D. We've been talking about manually programming this on the front panel display in analog mode. We've discussed a walkthrough and a basic review of the radio. We even went as far as to see how long the battery life would last under ideal conditions. And today we're going to discuss how to use this radio with a pistar hotspot. And then in the next video, we'll talk about how to use this on a repeater in digital hotspots, such as WiresX. And then we're going to wrap up the video with how to use this radio and program it with a computer, as well as update the firmware. So we're about halfway through the video series here. Let's get started. Now, there is one thing I'm going to assume, and that is that you already have your pistar set up. However, if you don't, I did make a video a few videos ago, maybe 5 or 6 videos ago, where I actually go into detail how to set up a pistar for DMR, and it should be pretty similar for a Fusion radio. So check that out if you need some help, and please ask some questions. But I'm going to assume you're already at that point. And I am going to jump in real quick here to my pistar. And the reason for that is there's a little bit of information I'm going to need. The first thing I need is I need to know the frequency of my pistar, which in this case is 446.300. I could see that up where it's highlighted in green up top. So it's good to know that we're at 446.300, and I want to show you one more thing because it's kind of cool. But if you page down here to the Yaesu System Fusion configuration file, the Yaesu System startup host is currently set to none. And I did that for the purpose of this video, but you could drop that down and there's a list of things to choose from. And what will happen is every time you restart your MMDVM or whatever device you're using for pistar, it'll reconnect or try to reconnect to that room. So with that, I know that we're on 446.300. And let's go over to the radio. Okay, so here I am now, and I'm in my Yaesu FT70D. I'm in VFO mode, so I can manually input frequencies, and I need to just type in 446.300. Now, lucky for me, digital mode's already enabled. You can tell there by the D and the N on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. But what if I wasn't in digital mode? Well, all you got to do is hit this mode button next to the 1 on the keypad, and it goes in between FM and digital. So we're in digital, but I did notice here there's a offset, and if you remember in the last episode, you could change the offset since this is going to be a simplex frequency on the node. You can change the offset by going function and hitting function and hitting 0. My apologies. Function 0 will let you change the offset. And the reason it's hard for me is I'm looking on a screen while trying to program the radio. But once you do function and 0, you could then go between the options and you could do an offset of minus, plus, or simplex. And in this case, we're going to be doing simplex. So I now just have to hit the V/M button again, or I could hit the F button. So 446.300, the offset is gone. The DN is here. I want to mention the AMS, or the automatic mode select. To go to automatic mode select, you could hold down AMS. And when you hold down AMS, you'll get this box that's right below the 446, in this case, the frequency. And what that automatic mode select does is, as it listens, it determines whether or not it's in a digital mode. And if it's in a digital mode, it'll stay in the digital mode. But if it's in FM mode, it'll switch this over to FM mode. Why is that important? Well, in this case, for example, we have a simplex frequency that I'm using, and I'm using it in digital mode. But what if some guy was trying to get on 446.300 and he had some like emergency traffic and I didn't hear him because I didn't have the automatic mode select enabled? So I leave it enabled, and that way if somebody's trying to break in, I'll be able to hear them even if they don't have a Fusion radio. Now that I have 446.300 enabled, I have automatic mode select enabled, and I have my digital enabled. I'm going to test this first. Actually, no, let's go ahead and program it. I'm pretty confident that it's going to work. But all we have to do to program it, just like the last video, is hold down the VFO/memory button. And it pops up and it says, hey, you want to program this under 7? Because that's my first frequency available, but I'm actually going to program this under 4. And once I use my knob up top to go to 4, Then I'm going to hit the V/M button again, and it's going to say, hey, you already have something in this channel. Do you want to overwrite it? Yep. So I'm going to hit V/M again, and then it prompts me to put in the tag I want to use for this memory channel. So in my case, it's going to be pistar, and I've kind of went over this already before, but you could use the knob up top to find the letters, and then to swap in between the letters, hit the band button. But that's kind of a long drawn-out process because, for example, like S is going to be all the way down. You know, you're just going to keep turning and turning to get to S. So you could also do it this way, where you find the letter you want on the keypad, and then you keep going. So now, in my case, I probably made a mistake because this should be an I, and I could just, again, go here and fix it before I hit band to go to the next letter. P-I-A, or P-I-S-T-A-R. Pistar. And now that it says pistar, hold down that VFO memory button, and it disappears. But now 446.300 shows, and again, we're in VFO mode, so if we go to memory mode, and number 4 shows pistar. So we're at a pretty good point. We have our digital node programmed into the radio. So even though, as you can see on the bottom left-hand side of my pistar screen that I just pulled up, I'm not linked to any Fusion networks or any nodes, but I could still test to make sure that this works, and it's just going to be a local test. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to key up and identify, and I should see RF activity showing up here. So let's give it a shot. This is W9FFF. And you'll see I transmitted, and now it's in listening mode as indicated on the left-hand side of the menu. So I'm pretty confident that this is working. How do we now connect to rooms? And this is the part that's going to be different than actual YSX rooms, because the pistar network isn't the same as actual YSX network. And because of it, and because it's kind of a different way of doing things, not all the features on the FT70D work with pistar, or correctly work. So there are a couple workarounds, but first we need to find a room. And in order to find a reflector or a room that we want to connect to, I just pulled up pistar.uk/YSF_reflectors.php, and I'll link you to that in the comments or the description below. So all of a sudden we have this huge list of reflectors and nodes that are in the area, and we want to connect to one. So I'm going to connect to the ham radio crash course link, which is 01037. Let me highlight that for you, 01037. So if you use this top knob here to go left or right, you'll see a couple of things. You'll see this US Illinois room, which is probably the last room I connected to. And you're going to go over and you're going to see this little asterisk. Well, this little asterisk is a manual way to put in a node number or a reflector number that we want to connect to. So again, that ham radio crash course was 01037, and that's what we're going to type in right here. Now that we put in 01037, we need to connect. So let's hit that AMS button again. And when we hit AMS button, it actually connects to it. So now we're connected to the US ham radio crash course. And so, for example, now that we're connected to the ham radio crash course, if you were using an actual Fusion reflector or room, you could hold down any number 1 through 5 and program that into these different channels here. So I'll go into that on the next episode as well, but I'll give you an example. So if you're under CN, which is your current connected room or your current connected node, and you hold down 1 through 5, so for example 5, for about a second, it's going to give you a beep. And then if you go to 5, there it is, US ham radio crash course. So you might be asking yourself, well, what doesn't work? Now, allow me to disconnect from YSX or go back into memory mode and then come back into YSX, and that'll no longer be there. So for example, if I want to exit YSX mode, I could hold down the mode button. And as I hold down the mode button, you'll see now that I'm back into my memory mode. Perfect. But now if I go back into YSX and it transmits, it connects, It does not show that in channel 5 anymore, and it should have saved it. And it will save it if it's an actual YSX room, but it didn't. We still are currently connected to the US Ham Radio Crash Course node, though. And since you can't save room numbers with the pistar and the FT70, and John Kruk from Yaesu goes into detail about it, I'll try to provide the link below. However, since you can't do that, you have to probably carry a list of room numbers with you or have access to the internet at all times so you know those room numbers. But there's one more thing you can do, and I want to show you real quick. You'll see here now I'm back at my pistar dashboard, and if I go to configuration, it's going to give me an error for the modem. But if I go to configuration and I go down to the Yaesu startup host file, and I select this drop down, let's say there was one room I constantly wanted to connect to. And when I connect to this room, you know, I don't want to have to go through all that menu features. Well, in the pistar, you could scroll down until you find that room that you want to constantly connect to. And I keep getting disconnected from the Ham Radio Crash Course link, so I'm going to use a different one. I just got to find one that I want to connect to constantly for the sake of this tutorial. And you can see there's quite a few. Typically, if I scroll all the way down, I'll find the U's. So US Pennsylvania, you know, US Oro Valley, Arizona, and so forth. And for now, let's just go ahead and connect to the Illinois link and apply the changes. And here's what's going to happen. After the changes are applied, we're going to connect to YSX, and we should automatically see that the room connected currently is going to be the US Illinois link. And so here we are back in the radio. I waited a significant time for the pistar to make the changes and reboot. And here we are. So let's go ahead and reconnect to YSX by hitting function in AMS. And you'll see the two buttons flash. And then there's a connect notice on here. So we're connected. Now it shows that my current connected node is the US Illinois link. So again, if I were to try to program this in here, let's say we wanted to program it under C3, we just hold down 3, and then we will go over to 3, and there it is, but it's not going to save. I'm going to get out of this mode, and then I'm going to re-enter the mode. Oh, excuse me. I'll show you that in the next episode. But then I'm going to re-enter the YSX, and it tries to connect, and it will show me that I'm connected to Illinois still. As you see, current node connected to Illinois because it's hard set into the pistar. But if I were to go back to C3, Illinois is gone. You could see my last connected node was the US Ham Radio Crash Course, so it does remember that. And if I wanted to connect to this now, I could just hit AMS. And when I hit AMS, it went over to the Ham Radio Crash Course and then back to Illinois if I wanted to. Except I would have to actually type in the node now because it only remembered Ham Radio Crash Course, but not Illinois. So the whole point of that is once you connect to your YSX, all the features of the channels don't work correctly. So don't be discouraged if you think it's a bug with the software. It's really not. It's how the pistar was designed versus how the Yaesu Fusion was designed. But there is one more thing I want to show you. In the lower left-hand side, we're still in digital narrow, DN. But what if we wanted what I call very wide or voice wide? How do we get there? So let's say I was talking to somebody and I wanted to talk on voice wide as opposed to digital narrow. To switch into voice wide mode, you're going to have to go into the menu. So hold down the function key. And once you hold down the function key, you want to use the knob on top to scroll to option 16, DIGVW, and then tap the function key and you'll see mine's off. So I'm just going to go ahead and set it to on. And then I'm going to hold down the mode key. And that's going to put me back into wherever I was. Now you're going to see that I'm still here in DW mode. Basically, it's going to go into VW mode or voice wide mode, voice wide mode whenever the opportunity is there. So right now it's not going to do it. But, you know, that is important because voice wide mode is kind of a sought after thing. I'm surprised there's not a shortcut down here. And if there is, I might have just missed it. But it's a nice thing because you get that, I call it very wide mode, because you get that nice full sound instead of sometimes with that narrow mode a little bit tinnier. But anyway, that is kind of what we have going on with this Yaesu connecting to a pistar. If I were wanting to get out of this again, all I have to do is hold down the band button, and then I'm back into my memory mode. Hey guys, you're probably wondering why there's a dog next to me. Well, if you made it this far, you've watched the whole video, and now it's time to take my dog out for a walk. But in order to give him a walk, I need to get some likes. So don't forget to hit that like button, and we'll get him out on a walk, and we'll get him some treats. So that was the video on the Yaesu FT70D. I thank you for checking it out. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. And until next time, when we talk about the Yaesu FT70D on a traditional YSF system, I'm W9FFF Ham Radio Dude 73.